TII Item 119, February 1st, 2010. Hey Steven, is that an iPad in your pocket, or you just...
Welcome to Today in iPhone.
I like it a lot.
Today in iPhone.
Hey, Golden!
Oh yeah!
You've got to almost put the iPhone, to be fair, in a separate category, the Apple brand, and that device has done so well. It's almost not, it's like comparing someone to Michael Jordan.
Today's episode is brought to you by the TII app. Just search for TII in the iTunes App Store. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Rob, and this is the Today in iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch podcast. Yeah, I'm tweaking the name a little bit now that the iPad's out, and I thought it was good to just include it all. So I've updated the artwork that's in the iTunes store for the Today in iPhone podcast. So now it's the Today in iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch podcast. As a matter of fact, if you just search for iPad, you'll see where the first result that shows up. Thanks, iTunes. But no matter what, you can just call us TII. To start off with, I want to thank Nate for sending in the artwork for today's episode. He writes, "Hi, I'm a new listener to your podcast and thought it would be fun to submit a picture for you for the TII cover art. I created it with the app Doodle Buddy." Nate, thank you very much for that. And folks, if you have some artwork you've created on the iPhone you want to share with the audience, email it to us at todayiniphone@gmail.com. To start off today's episode, we're going to get into some news and some reviews, and then later in the episode, we'll get into your feedback that you've been sending in on your thoughts on the iPad. But first up, in this segment of How Wrong Were They?, we have the following quote. Quote, "There's no chance that the iPhone is going to get any significant market share. No chance. It's a $500 subsidized item. They may make a lot of money, but if you actually take a look at the 1.3 billion phones that get sold, I'd prefer to have our software in 60, 70, or 80% of them than I would to have 2% or 3%, which is what Apple might get." Unquote. Steve Ballmer, Microsoft CEO, 30th of April, 2007. This was one we actually talked about back in one of the very early TII podcasts back in April, May 2007. There are two key things in this quote that are funny. One, that Microsoft has nowhere near 60% of the phone OS, not to mention 70 or 80%. Not back then, not ever. And two, 3% of the 1.3 billion is 39 million, which at the time Apple was hoping for just 10 million iPhones per year. Of course, now the 39 million per year number is actually starting to come true when you project out what they did last quarter. So, looks like Ballmer actually called that part of it right. Oh, and he got the part about them making lots of money right too. Maybe this quote didn't belong in the How Wrong Were They segment after all. I want to congratulate Mobile Tools, winner of our first elevator pitch challenge. They got 80.5% of the vote. So congratulations to Mobile Tools, and thanks to Mobile Tools and the other developers for sending in the promo codes. I'll be emailing back the winners of those promo codes shortly, so you should see those soon, and I'll also email those that didn't win just to let you know that you didn't win. If you are an app developer and you want to participate in a future elevator pitch challenge, email me at todayiniphone@gmail.com, and I will send you a link to the blog post we have up on the TII site explaining the rules. The second elevator pitch challenge is still going strong, so if you want to see what apps were made available in that one, check out episode 118 of the TII podcast over at todayiniphone.com or directly from the TII iPhone app. One of the things on the iPad that no one, and I mean no one, called, other than the $499 price, which no one called either, is the display being used. The 9.7-inch IPS display was rumored by no one. It is the IPS tech that really caught many people flat-footed. So what is IPS? Well, from Wikipedia, it is, quote, in-plane switching, which was developed by Hitachi in 1996 to improve on the poor viewing angle and the poor color reproduction of TN panels at the time. Its name comes from the main difference from TN panels, that the crystal molecules move parallel to the panel plane instead of perpendicular to it. This change reduces the amount of light scattering in the matrix, which gives IPS its characteristic wide viewing angles and good color reproduction, unquote. From what I have heard from those that played with the iPad, it is a very pretty screen. I have not heard if the iPad is using enhanced IPS from LG, which according to Wikipedia is the bomb. We'll keep digging on this. PC World has an article with the pricing of some of the official iPad accessories. The iPad keyboard dock will set you back $69. Just the iPad dock sans the keyboard will cost $29. The iPod case is $39, but expect lots and lots of third-party cases available by the time it's available. The iPod camera connection kit is $29, and that gets you both the SD card adapter and the USB adapter. But right now, it looks like the USB connector or adapter is only good for connecting to a camera and not a flash drive for transferring files. Again, expect a plethora of third-party accessories by the end of March, and of course, then jailbreaking to make that USB dongle work with your flash drive. Uncle Gene Munster was the first of the analysts out of the box with his revised sales numbers for the iPad, which went from about 2 million for the first year to now in the 3 to 4 million range for the first year, and then double that run rate for 2011. Uncle Gene then goes on to predict that it will not affect / cannibalize sales of Mac products. However, in my household, it will. If there was no tablet coming, I would be buying a new MacBook Pro so my wife could have my laptop. But now with the tablet doing what she needs, i.e. mail and internet, I will get her the tablet and hold off on upgrading to the MacBook Pro for as long as I can, which means a min 1 to 2 year push out on the purchase of a MacBook Pro. So while he's saying overall it's not going to cannibalize Mac sales, it is in this house at least for a year or two. From Erica Murphy at Mac News is an article on the iPad with quotes from moi. So if you want to read my additional comments on the iPad name or those quotes from others, look for the link in the show notes and episode 119 at todayandiphone.com. It was interesting that McGraw-Hill was not in the iPad keynote presentation. Looks like El Stevo decided, and rightly so, to axe them from the presentation after their really loose-lipped CEO spilled the beans a day early about the iPod running iPhone OS. If you did not see that, look for the blog post on todayandiphone.com from January 26th. There's a link there to the video of him talking around the 3-minute mark. It's pretty amazing that a CEO of such a large company could have zero regard for any NDA that clearly they would have been under. It really is also sad how old media just keeps trying to invent new ways to F themselves. I would guess the McGraw-Hill CEO was given a really good tongue lashing by Apple Legal. It is reported that Steve even called the board of directors at McGraw-Hill on Tuesday the 26th, and we actually happen to have a copy of that call to the board. Let's play that now.
And I'm going to blame some of the people in this room. They talk when they should listen. And then I do not forgive. And if some unlucky accident should befall him, if he should get shot in the head by a police officer, or if he should hang himself in his jail cell, or if he's struck by a bolt of lightning, let me say that I swear that I will not be the one to break the peace we've made here today.
Oh, come on. It even fit better this time than it did the first time I used it. People are starting to play with the SDK for the iPhone OS 3.2, which, by the way, the iPhone OS 3.2 is what the iPad uses, and that means some details are coming out that were not released at the event. One of the more interesting finds in the SDK is that in iPad mode, under Contacts, there is an option to, quote, take photo, unquote, which for a device without a camera seems to be a nifty trick. Does this mean the iPad V2 will have a camera, or that between now and the end of March, a camera will somehow appear on the iPad? My guess is that this is just leftover code from the port from the iPhone contacts. Sadly, I don't see the camera making it in the first iPad, which is one of the things that I think it should have had, but unfortunately I'm not really surprised it didn't have. I mentioned briefly on the last episode that once the iPad was jailbroken, it would allow for more options, including backgrounding. And a lot of people emailed in asking about jailbreaking of the iPad and how possible or likely that would be. Now, at this point, I have not heard anything official from the iPhone dev team, but my guess is that if you get enough of the team working at it, someone will figure it out, just like they have figured it out with each version of the iPhone and each version of the iPhone OS. But at this point, again, there is nothing official about it. But wait until the iPad is released, and within a week, I am sure there will be some news of someone being able to jailbreak it. In order to keep this episode under 10 minutes, we're going to go ahead and end it there. If you want to actually hear the remainder of this episode, go to todayandiphone.com and look for the current episode. Or you can go to iTunes and subscribe to the Today in iPhone podcast. That way you'll be sure to get every new episode when it comes out in its entirety.